I had a pretty good reason for burying a private fiber optic line across my front lawn, sneaking it through a fake irrigation box and encrypting every single packet of data with a protocol I helped design for the Bureau. That reason, it kicked in full force one afternoon when I was tracking a cyber cell threatening to crash parts of the national power grid, and my entire feed went dead. At first I thought, brilliant. It's a counter-hack. They're onto me. Nope. When I opened my door, there stood Cynthia Bellevue, our self-appointed HOA queen, smiling like she'd just won Community Member of the Year. In her hand, my severed black cable, coiled up like some kind of techno-serpent trophy. Her sun visor was half crooked from the effort, and next to her was a poor landscaping tech, just nodding along nervously as Cynthia proudly declared, "This ugly unauthorized wire was violating our neighborhood beauty standards." I froze. Cynthia had no idea she hadn't just yanked out some rogue Wi-Fi line. She'd just taken down an encrypted FBI node mid-operation. Oh yeah, national security, trashed months of work, gone, and the kicker. I had to smile, politely, wave and pretend my soul wasn't screaming. Now, some background on Cynthia. She wasn't just obsessed with clean lawns and perfectly matched shutters. She was gunning for a seat on the city council. In her mind, running our neighborhood like a militarized beauty pageant was her ticket to the big leagues. She wasn't just enforcing rules. She was building a political resume. And that day, cutting my line. That was Cynthia making a bold move to show the neighborhood who was boss. Meanwhile, I was dying inside, because an hour earlier, I had been this close to pinning down a digital ghost who'd been dancing through American infrastructure for months. I had a live trace, a full algorithmic fingerprint forming, and then flatline. No surge, no warning, no natural outages, just one surgically sliced cable, thanks to Cynthia and her oversized garden shears. I wanted to snap, but instead, I kept it calm. "Ma'am, that line was private property," I said. Cynthia smiled like a benevolent dictator. "Not if it violates code, Section 18A, dear. No unauthorized tech structures within 30 feet of visible landscaping. I spotted that when I peeked over your tulips last week. Rules are rules." Peeked over my tulips. Y'all, I nearly blacked out from sheer rage, but it got worse. Cynthia leaned in and said, "You know, it's really suspicious how much tech gear you have. Jordan's satellite dishes, antennas. What are you hiding?" I gave my stock. "Cover freelance IT consultant, encryption systems." She winked at me like she'd just solved Watergate and strutted off. The moment she was out of sight, I sprinted into my garage, yanked open the secret panel, and fired up the emergency uplink hidden inside my fake tool cart. I got back online, but it was too late. The hacker's trail had gone cold, and the Bureau wasn't thrilled. Interference, HQ asked, civilian cut. The main line. I gritted out, "They told me to proceed with caution. Translation, fix it quietly." But fixing it wasn't enough. Cynthia had lit a fire I wasn't going to just put out. I was going to turn it into a full-blown investigation. The next morning, she kicked off something she called the Neighborhood Purity Project. Translation, Cynthia and her minions would now inspect all non-standard tech equipment to maintain electromagnetic harmony. She was handing out glossy flyers about signal pollution. Like it was the plague, I grabbed one off a neighbor's porch and almost choked. Laughing pseudoscience paranoia, and just enough buzzwords to sound official. But underneath all that crazy, something smelled rotten. Real rotten. So I flipped the script I deployed. Project Driftwire, a passive surveillance system hidden inside my garage insulation. Within hours, it picked up every device Cynthia owned, and one ghost signal embedded deep inside her network. A ghost I recognized. An encrypted relay node, buried spoofed, hidden behind fake IDs. Somebody had planted a corporate surveillance device inside Cynthia's Wi-Fi. And judging by the pings, she had no idea she was feeding private resident data to someone. I started digging deeper, and what I found made my blood run cold. Home grid analytics. If you don't know, then count yourself lucky. Home Grid was a notorious data firm under federal scrutiny for using HOA partnerships to illegally collect behavioral data. What time you woke up, what smart devices you owned, even how often you used your microwave. And now, Cynthia was sitting right on top of one of their control nodes. Maybe she knew, maybe she didn't, but she was definitely being used. Or worse, collaborating. Either way, I had my target. I built a honeypot, a fake Wi-Fi network called Community Uplink Beta, full of decoy data about fake streaming hubs and rogue contractors. It took less than 72 hours. Home Grid bit hard. They scanned, downloaded, and triggered every trace hook I'd planted. And just like that, I had the entire Home Grid web lighting up on my monitor like Christmas. Meanwhile, Cynthia escalated. She started issuing fines for unauthorized routers, electromagnetic clutter, even acoustic disharmony from smart sprinklers. It was absurd, and the neighborhood was quietly boiling with resentment. So I planned. The endgame, I gathered. Enough data, screenshots, admin access logs, and I handed it to a journalist friend under strict anonymity. 48 hours later, headline, HOA President caught feeding resident data to surveillance firm. It exploded. Local news picked it up. National outlets sniffed around. Reddit forget about it. Cynthia became a meme overnight. Wi-Fi warden, Cynthia, complete with a badly photoshopped visor. But we weren't done yet. The HOA called an emergency town hall. The room was packed. Standing room, only everyone buzzing like bees in a kicked hive. Cynthia marched in stiff-backed and defiant, trying to act like nothing had happened. She lasted exactly 3 minutes before Greg, the grumpy guy from down the street, stood up and bellowed, "Are you going to explain why you were spying on my thermostat?" Cynthia, the dam broke. People shouted. Mrs. Alvarez waved screenshots. Even the normally timid old folks demanded answers. And then I stepped forward. I clicked a remote. The screen behind Cynthia lit up with video footage of her tablet admin panel. wide open home grid logo flashing bright. She screamed about fake news, hacking conspiracies. She tried to lunge for the projector, tripped over a folding chair, and face planted into the podium. It was chaos, beautiful, cathartic chaos. Within minutes, the HOA board voted to suspend her indefinitely. Security walked her out to a chorus of polite golf claps. And just like that, Cynthia Bellevue's suburban empire crumbled into dust. A new HOA president took over a retired librarian named Helen, who proudly declared she didn't even own a smartphone. She immediately tore down all the home grid hardware, held a real community barbecue. No drones, no fines, just potato salad and cheap hot dogs. And me, I sat back on my porch with a cold beer, watching kids ride bikes and sprinklers tick on in the dusk. My van stayed parked nearby, still tuned, still ready. Because if there's one thing Cynthia taught me, it's that tyranny doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears a sun visor and carries a clipboard. And when it comes knocking again, well, I'll be here, watching the watchers. Now tell me, have you ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA or seen a community turn upside down over rules gone too far? I'd love to hear your stories down in the comments. Let's swap some HOA war stories together.